What is up, guys? Little misstep there by me. Welcome back to the Huddle, the number one podcast in flooring. We're here to help you gain forward progress in your career. Simply put, we're here to help you guys win. All our new viewers, welcome to the team. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment on our stuff. Go over to our YouTube page and hit that good old bell notification as well. Today's sponsor, Shag Tools, as you've seen. I want to thank Shag Tools for sponsoring this episode of The Huddle. Today's topic, science of adhesives. With me, as always, Mr. Daniel and Jose Gonzalez, and frequent flyer here on The Huddle is Sonny Callaham. Mr. Sonny, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Doing well.
Great. You know what? Can we
Like
start
landing
the
planes. The glue.
The glue dude.
Oh, it's
Now, I'm the glue dude. Someone else is the glue roo. They've already stole that name, so I'm the glue dude.
Oh, did they? Dang.
he's got enough plays on names.
Oh yeah, Sonny Claus. That's the one. This time of year, everybody calls me.
Sonny Claus and Divergent.
Diver.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Butthole.
Well,
stuff like that.
I think you're the perfect guy, Sonny, to talk about the science of adhesives.
I appreciate that.
But first off, I want to ask, is there really a science behind adhesives, or is it just colored water?
Well, it depends on who you ask, I guess. There actually is a lot of science that goes into it, but the basic chemistry of carpet and resilient adhesives is pretty simple. You're just mixing ingredients. It's not until you get to the urethanes and the modified silanes and epoxies do you start getting that reactive chemistry to where there's, takes a little bit more to it.
So on your standard adhesives, latex modified, acrylic based, that kind of stuff, can you kind of just do the quick rundown of what the science behind that is, and what makes one adhesive maybe more, I don't want to say better
The benefits,
or more
features
appropriate. Yeah. Features and benefits of why one acrylic adhesive is preferred over another in certain circumstances.
Oh, sure. That's fortunately, that's something I go around and talk about pretty often. Just did it the week we had our heat welding class. I gave the presentation to the IICRC. So basically, when we start talking about flooring adhesives, we're going to talk about three main categories. Hundreds of adhesive categories, but for flooring, we typically just talk about the three, which is SBR, carpet adhesives, and then acrylic polymer, acrylic emulsion, acrylic dispersion, all that. It's all the same thing. Those are those white adhesives for resilient floors. And then what we just talked about was the reactive, chemistries, the MS, the epoxy, the urethane, things like that. So each one of them have a great benefit, have a benefit to what they're being used for. We'll start with the easiest one. That's SBR. SBR is styrene butadiene rubber, and that's used for carpet adhesive. Down and dirty commodity item. We all buy latex from one of two people, right? It's just how much good stuff do you want to put into it, and how do you want to mix the ratios of things? Do you want something soft and gummy like a VCT adhesive? Those are SBRs. Or do you want something, low in latex, be cost effective, or do you want one rich in latex so you can use it for cement stirred, woven, double glue down, things like that? So it really is just a mixture of how you want to do it and how much good stuff do you want to put in it. For the reactive chemistry, I think we need to do that one first. Just like what it says, it reacts, right? So the SBR and the acrylic emulsions that we talked about, they all, when they flash off, they dispel the water. The water goes out from it, right? Where reactive chemistry and the urethane and MS polymer, they're sucking in the moisture. That's why sometimes you'll see people putting water near it to try to kick off the urethane. Um, it's pretty comical. There's a artificial turf company out there that shows videos of them gluing these
Seen it.
artificial turf. Yeah, I know you saw it.
Yeah, with the water,
And
the soda
they're just
lines.
pouring bottles of water onto the urethane adhesive, and it's just the dumbest thing you'd ever watch. You're like, yeah, it makes it kick off. No,
You are
that's not
so
what does it. It's the
professional, though.
water vapor
So,
that will do it, right? Just spritz it. Yeah.
yeah, your comment was just like so professional. I wanted to add to it, but I knew that it would go nowhere.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I don't even remember what I said, but it was like, what are you thinking?
Al Gladden says he will
What?
donate $1,000 to any charity if Sonny shaves the beard.
Yeah,
That's
it's
a-
going to take more money than that, my friend.
I was gonna
a
say
lot
you're
more
gonna have
than
to add
that.
some zeros to get Sonny to shave the
Man.
beard during Christmas time, man.
It's his
On
time of
cheap
year.
He
days.
makes that every time he goes to the mall. They just
Yeah,
throw
but
the
it's
I
just
money
say,
at
I
him.
don't get out of
He's-
bed for
he's Santa Claus.
$1,000.
Yeah, in
Why
December, when
shave
he
the
steps out
beard?
the door, his bank account increases just for walking out there with that beard.
Yeah.
One day I'll send you
So
the
Sonny, on the
picture of me.
reactive. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, one day I'll send you guys a picture of me the last time I shaved it off for No Shave November. We did a charity who was going to, who could grow the longest beard in a month. And I was like, no, I don't care how much I win. We donated it, but I don't care how much is at stake. I'm not shaving it again. Looked like Groot from Despicable Me.
Well, on the topic of adhesives, when you're talking about reactive, you got epoxies and urethanes and modified silanes. Modified silanes use moisture, kind of kicks them off. Is that correct?
Right. Oh, yeah. The urethane and the modified silane, they both, they're going to absorb the moisture that's in the air. And then there's what's called an exothermic reaction. So if anybody's ever left a 2-part urethane or 2-part epoxy in the bucket too long, you feel that bucket warming up, right? And it can actually start smoking. That's what the exothermic reaction is. That's why you've got to get it on the floor and spread it out. That heat is dispersed and it won't cause the issue. But it definitely wants moisture in the air. So in Florida, in the summertime, it's going to kick off a lot faster than it would in Arizona in the summertime, even though they may have similar temperatures. It's the humidity that really does it.
Gotcha.
We've done stuff with like the urethanes too, where we had to spritz it with water because they're like, this stuff is, as soon as you're done, people are going to try getting on it. So
That's right. Oh, and you and I spoke about this. I've got that information for you. I got to get it to you. But there's different ways that you can speed up these urethane adhesives. But, in the industry, I've really seen an increase in using single-part urethanes for resilient floors because, yes, they cost more. They cost quite a bit more than the acrylic emulsions, but they're almost bulletproof, right? They'll stop the moisture. Rolling loads doesn't matter. You can leave it at the door when at a grocery store for the walk-off mats, the ice and snow and salt, not going to hurt it. I've always told people I can make an adhesive that will do anything and never fail. You wouldn't be able to afford it, right? And this is kind of the midpoint using that reactive technology to make it work and not ever have any issues.
we just
You're
did
dealing with all these. Go ahead.
we just did a entrance at a grocery store that was their issue, was that every time someone would come and replace it, it would end up failing again and again. And I was like, well, we do have this adhesive that doesn't react with the water and stuff, so that's what we're going to end up using. And she was like, can we just use the regular stuff? And it's like, no, because then you're going to think that it's my fault when I'm telling you that we can use something else and mitigate this, right? Like you want this to be solved long term and not just keep on doing it and doing it and doing it. This is what we have to do. She was like, okay.
She want me to
Guess
come
you're the
back again in
professional.
6 months and redo it all. Let's try this. But, a lot of people, when we talk about 2-part urethanes and 2-part epoxies, They've both been around for a long time, and historically, the epoxies have always been a lot harder, a lot more brittle, and the urethanes have been a lot more on the softer side, right? So a little bit of elasticity to it. Over the last 20 years, epoxy and urethane adhesives are so close that you really can't. Those two categories of the way they're different are not really there anymore. There's some epoxies that are more brittle, but for the most part, epoxies and urethanes do the same things now. And epoxy catalyst is urethane, right? That's the catalyst that's in there. So there's where there used to be a lot of differences in them, there's really not anymore.
I know this is probably the most obvious thing, but can you go ahead and describe for those who have not used these two-part systems, what's the number one rule? Like what do you have to do for them to be
the number one rule is not putting
even start to work?
Yeah, not putting all the catalyst in the pail and mixing it up right. That's the biggest thing that we see. I mean, I had one, it was a very high profile job. The adhesive was still wet underneath what it was, and we scraped up a sample, sent it back. We did what was called an FTIR, which basically is the DNA test for what's there. We found no presence of the catalyst. They had just poured the single part of the bucket out and used it.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
they argued up and down.
Make sure that you are utilizing the proper mixing instructions, the ratios.
Right. Yeah.
Secondly, and maybe where I was driving at, but your point is even better. You got to mix it right first. But we've had heard stories of people gluing up large areas and laying on it like it's pressure sensitive, and they soon find out that it's not sticking. Yeah. And so these are wet set systems is the bottom line. Right. You got to get into
anything reactive
as soon as you can possibly get into a reactive adhesive, whether it's modified silane, epoxy, or urethane. You got to get into them while they're still wet. Follow the rules on the buckets. I know we say that all the time, but it'll tell you, you average open time, or spread in 50 square foot grids, or some type of
or it actually says must be set in wet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I say, they put that on there for a reason.
Yeah. You know what's funny is that comment, that this part of the conversation right there is literally what made me start reading specs a long time ago on the bucket and calling the phone numbers. It was a 4-bow project, and we did I was a helper, right? I was still learning, I didn't read it, just kind of, do as I say type deal. And it failed, and we installed it like sheet vinyl, right? We treated it like it was what we installed every day. It was my first time working with it and having to redo that project. I knew that guy. I know how much stress he was under, but man, that was like, I can't trust this guy to lead me anymore. Like,
I gotta read the bucket, not just listen.
That's literally what started the whole thing. Like,
well, not only that, and then it was the heat weld and not sticking and not knowing that you got to get back to the jute. But that's a whole nother topic. That's
a whole new podcast. Yeah, is what that is.
Yeah.
What is your favorite
linoleum floor?
What is your favorite white adhesive, Whitebeard?
What is my what?
Your favorite white adhesive.
White adhesive? I think, I miss the traditional wet set adhesives. And the reason I know is because we don't get non-porous slabs anymore. When I installed, they were all porous, and that wet set made life really easy, right? But now with everything being power trialed, steel trialed, whatever you want to call it, you have to open them up anyway, right? And there are some manufacturers who say no matter what, you've got to open it up to use their adhesive. So as simple as it sounds, not to minimize it, but yeah, you got to read the pail. There's a data sheet there for a reason. Everything's going to be easy. That kind of comes back to one of the things I wanted to talk about today is, for a long time, people had carpet adhesive, they had resilient adhesive, and this is my wood adhesive. This is what we have. Those days are over. There's 20 different PSAs. There's multitudes of wood adhesives that are different, and they're all a little bit different. I mean, DryTac's got a great product that you trial out and let it flash. You try to do that with a urethane, like you said, Paul, it's going to be an issue. Ours are wet sets, right? Everything's got to get in it. So they're not the same. Technology has bettered itself, even though people say they miss solvents. That's a completely different conversation. But solvents had their place. They don't anymore because the polymeric products that we're selling now are better than the solvent based. People just don't want to change.
Well, they are now, years, right? But when I was installing when that transition happened, and the first generation of polymer based adhesives were nowhere near as good as the solvent based adhesives.
They sucked. Yeah.
But of course, they got much better, and we're doing, as an industry, I think, attacked and approach the problem of moisture in slabs, non-porous, pore, all these things. And that's why you have this. That's why we're having this discussion. You got to have the discussion because there's so many adhesives, but it's because there's so many different site conditions and products that require a little tweak here or there in the adhesives. That's why you got to be a doggone near a scientist or a chemist to do the floors anymore. I would like to say a couple of things. First off, I got to jump off here fairly soon to everybody. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I've got a board meeting I got to jump into for the children's home here in just a few minutes. So I wanted to get that out of the way and thank everybody for being here. Secondly, a lot of these adhesives, when you're trying to get a certain result out of a flooring, and let's say you do pick an adhesive that needs some porosity, which is most of them. Do yourself a favor if you're in the commercial world and make sure you're adding the adhesive to your submittal package, because when you go there and it's hard trialed and you have to do extra work in grinding to grind the floor up, at least you have something to point back to and say, hey, I submitted this product. You've seen the requirements for the slab on the product data. I made that very clear to you up front. And now you've power trialed and closed this slab up like a partially polished concrete slab. I have no choice than to run a grinder over it and open this thing back up.
And
we
someone's got to pay for it
for free, guys. So, and I know that most of us who bid these projects, sight unseen most times, because there is no site, right? It's a big field. They're getting ready to put an elementary school on, and or a hospital or a restaurant or whatever the situation. And when you are doing those types of things, just do yourself a favor and make sure you're submitting your adhesive along with the rest of your flooring product submittal, so that you have something to fall back on if you do have to go grind 50,000 foot of floor to open it up for your adhesive.
Right. And how much longer do we have you for, Paul?
A couple minutes here.
Let's do this drawing while you're on here, so that way we can figure out who wins this.
Yeah, I'd love for you to see that.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I got it right here. Thank you to Tammy for putting this together. And we are just going to click to spin and see whose name it lands on. Ready to go?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go.
Oh, that is awesome.
Hey,
Robert
Wingo.
Yeah, I know that cat. Nice.
All right.
Fantastic.
We got Scott on here. Let's do it. All right. Congratulations,
Nice.
Robert.
Yeah, congrats. Thanks everybody for on behalf of the family, thank you to everybody for participating and working through all the technical difficulties early on there.
And thanks for everything, Sonny and Scott, for putting everything together. And we hope that Denise, we hope that it helps you out with what you got going on. I mean, we know it's not gonna solve any the big issue stuff, but any little thing that we could do, that's what we wanted.
That's right.
Amen.
No, happy to help
We
her.
got Denise on here right here.
Oh, do you? That's great. All right. I love what she says. She calls it the tribe. That's her tribe. And I think that's a great way to describe us, because we're all together to make it work. So I love it. Absolutely love it. Robert
That's
Wingo.
awesome. All right. Congrats, Robert. And thanks to everybody who participated. That was cool. And that was a way better way than our little roller ball thing we used to use, the old analog version of that. That was pretty cool.
G7.
I don't know, that was pretty cool.
G7.
Denise says thanks and she loves everyone, and then she said the tribe. That's what we're
Denise,
here for.
I will see you next week. I'll be there Thursday night, but probably see you Friday. Going to Daytona.
Nice.
All right. Well, thanks, Paul, and enjoy your meeting.
All right, guys. Well, thanks, Sonny, again for joining us. Everybody, thank you for all the comments and being on here. And give the guys all the questions. Make them hard.
Yeah, that's
them work for their money.
Yeah, we're gonna start with this comment right here from Jeremy. He loves Lee's blue.
Guys.
Said no one ever.
Yeah, I wonder what
I got
that's
second
going down
before I leave.
Coming up.
That stuff will last a lifetime.
That's right. That's right. I do want to go back to something we were talking about with the two-part adhesives.
Yep.
What are some of the biggest things that we look at? One is, putting the catalyst in there and mixing it right. But another way to make sure that that's right, or the only way to do it right, is to use the proper mixing paddle.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many times. Do what?
RPMs? Do RPMs matter?
Yeah, obviously you don't want to whip air into it, but I see guys on the job site using those paddles for patch or self-leveler, right? Or they're using the one with the round bottom plate. That doesn't get down into the corners, right? You've got to get that dispersed throughout.
The one with the fins on it, right?
So
you got to use the one for a pin. It's got a red fin on it.
Yeah, I just had this conversation with somebody, and to me, I was like, well, there's a difference between a whip and a paddle. A paddle is not a wire whip. When someone says whip to me for mixing, I think of a wire mixer, not a paddle mixer. So
right.
Maybe.
Yeah, those two terms were the same for me when I was in middle school. Oh. I got a whipping and a paddle.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Can't do that anymore.
That one right there.
Then they call CPS on you now.
That's right. I miss those days.
When you used to talk to CPS?
Do what?
No, no one called CPS. You were scared to, like, if I would say I would call CPS, I'd get whipped again.
I don't know. I flip my kids off every day.
So we do have a question here, right? Let's
all right.
Transitional adhesives, and Jeremy said this, who was it? It was Charlie. He was like he said glue, and he was like, I mean adhesive. I need to start calling it adhesive instead of glue.
Yeah, I mean adhesive is the proper term, but I mean,
we're talking to the glue dude. We're talking to the glue dude. So transitional glues. Let's talk about them.
Well, I think that's a great question, because I think what I want to do is have some people answer when you say transitional adhesive, transitional glue. What do you think it does? Because I can ask 10 different people and get 10 different answers. And I've been trying to explain to people that if I have a really aggressive PSA, I'm trying to pick my words and not pick a battle. If I have a really aggressive PSA and it's soft and tacky on the front end, but over time the bond is so strong because it's a soft, grabby adhesive, and that vinyl can't come up, that's pretty firm, right? Did it actually change in chemistry from one to the other, right? No, it didn't. It was just a really aggressive adhesive. Some people say that the transitional term means, tacky on the front end. You can set it tacky, you can set it wet, or excuse me, dry, or you can set it anywhere in between. That's the way I look at it more than anything else, because if you can use it all three ways, it's going to be firmer on the back end. So even a PSA, if you get that PSA transferred to the back of a piece of flooring, it's permanent instantly, right? Who cares if you let it flash off or not? Once you get transfer of adhesive to the back of the flooring, it's permanent, right? So I don't know. There's just a lot of misconceptions out there and misunderstanding that it became such a buzzword. And the company who did it did a great job of marketing it. It's a great product that the industry needs that product. It just depends on what you need it for. What do you need the adhesive to do? Then you can go out there and find what you want.
Yeah, because I think we talked about it briefly before, right? And people tend to think that it just means that you can use it either wet or let it flash off completely and use it like a traditional PSA.
Right. And that's the answer I get a lot.
And there's a lot of people that we just had this conversation in one of the meetings we had here at work, and even our own guys, 3 people were referring to the same adhesive with a different terminology. And Daniel had to go into a spiel on, this is where we're at. This is what we got to do. We have to check the adhesive. We have to understand the difference between open time, flash time, transitional PSA. And he gave examples of current projects that we were working on. So then you could see the guys were just like, it was like click, click, click. Oh, you mean that's why the adhesive wasn't sticky anymore after 5 hours of open time when I was doing all those intricate cuts.
Yeah. No, that's it. The label's going to give you that timeline, right? You got to follow that timeline.
Yeah, and when it says 2 hours, hey, you better have that stuff installed in 2 hours.
You better be rolling it in 2 hours. That's like, my mindset.
Well, think of it this way. As an adhesive manufacturer, if I thought you could get the exact same quality of installation by letting it go 10 hours, don't you think I would tell you to do 10 hours, right? I would want to do everything I can to help you. If I say 2 hours, that's the limit, right? There's a significant fall off after 2 hours. So you want to make sure you follow it. So, the idea of I just glue it in the afternoon, I come back the next day. Well, apparently you did VCT in the 80s, because we don't do that
VCT.
Yeah. The adhesive isn't black anymore either, right?
Yeah,
so that's just
what I was going to say.
You got to follow the instructions that are on there, because if I could leave it that open, I absolutely would, right? Everything we try to do is to make it, every adhesive manufacturer, what we try to do is make it as easy as we can for the installer. Because if they have to fight the product, they're not going to like the product and they're not going to buy the product. And then if they're not happy and they're fighting the glue, the whole job suffers, right? Your mentality changes if you're fighting the glue, if you're fighting the patch, if you're fighting anything. You got to make it as friendly as possible is the way I look at it.
Right. And I was just talking to baby sister about Forbo and the old adhesive. I was like, back in the day, it used to be like almost base adhesive. You're spreading base adhesive out, and there was no tack to it whatsoever. After it cured or it dried, and now it's actually pretty sticky. And this is their second generation of their sticky stuff. So I'm here for it.
Yeah. Well, 20 years ago, we made adhesive for a linoleum manufacturer, and it was just a carpet adhesive on steroids, right? It was even richer in latex than Lee's adhesive was. I mean, rich in latex, rich in binder, super high solids, and that's all it is, because you're going to that backing of that jute, and that PVC doesn't come into play, right? You don't have to have the polymer adhesive. That SBR will hold it in place and not break down. So there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat.
Yeah. But definitely everyone Like, if there's anything that you take away from this episode, it's read the bucket.
That's right. Hey, my phone number is all over the place on social media. If you have a question, call me. Shoot me a text.
I mean,
call me. I don't care whose
I
it
was
is. I'll
even
help you.
talking to a manufacturer, right? And they were like, I was asking them questions about the adhesive, and they were like, you know what? Let me just give you the person's information that we get the adhesive from. And they were like, it comes from a Sonny Callaham. I said, I already got his number. Let me just give him a call.
And you know why you have that number is because you're involved with trade associations in the industry, right? You networked with people and got that information because I'm sure you have it for Ardex, from Merpay, from all these other companies, because you've gotten out there and you developed the relationships that, it makes your life easier, right? It doesn't save the day. It makes your life easier. And that's all you want.
Right. And sometimes it feels like I'm cheating because some people will be like, hey, what should I do here? And it's like, you know what? Let me text this person over here real quick. And it's like skipping steps, kind of.
It's not
right.
cheating.
That's
It's not
right.
cheating, right? Like if you're an unhappy client somewhere, you don't say, hey waiter, let me talk to another waiter. You say, let me speak with the manager. Right? It's just you're just skipping that
That's
part.
right.
You're going directly to
You're not cheating. You're not trying.
right.
I mean,
Oops, that wasn't. I wanted
was that out loud?
Damn, my
So
thoughts.
Jose wants to know why some adhesives come in metal buckets and others in plastic buckets.
Okay, good question. So the mentality has been for a long time that urethane and wood adhesives, or urethane adhesives in general, needed to be in metal pails. And what that does, that prevents air and moisture to come in from the side and from the lid, because if it comes in contact with the air and the moisture, it's going to cure around the edges, right? You get a heavy enough pail, a 90 mil pail, and you can make sure that the lid gets sealed on there. Then you can use a plastic pail for urethane. It's kind of in phases. We see we've gone back and forth between metal and plastic. They both work if you get the right one. Acrylics and carpet adhesives and things like that, they just go into a plastic pail because they're not as sensitive. You can seal the pail up and it not be an issue. Because metal pails are quite a bit more money than plastic pails. So that's one of the main reasons it comes down to that. You're talking about a price point adhesive and you can save $4 on the pail. Well, yeah, that's what you're going to do. You're going to go with the plastic, cheaper.
Yeah, those buckets aren't cheap.
I do have a question. Do you advise when you open up a brand new pail of adhesive, do you advise mixing the pails? And where it specifies maybe it needs to be mixed, maybe it doesn't, or stirring or anything like that? Do you advise mixing them up like that?
Yeah, no, if it doesn't say to mix it up, don't mix it up. It may say to do it. I mean, we have it's not an adhesive, but it's a mitigation system that we say, mix it slowly with a stir it slowly with a stir stick, not mix it, right? Sometimes people want to do that when the adhesive has been frozen. Don't do that. Just set it somewhere where it's above freezing and let it come to temperature itself, and you'll be able to use it as long as it didn't go too far. But, mixing it just doesn't fix it. But if the manufacturer says mix it, right?
And they even, it should call for how many freeze-thaw cycles that an adhesive can have as well. I don't know if it says that on the bucket itself or you have to go online to get it, but there are ways to find it.
So when they say it's freeze-thaw stable, they're going to be testing it in accordance with ASTM's test method, right? Or standard, excuse me. And for me and the companies that I've been with, we always shoot for 0. Right? That's the number that we want to go to. We want to be able to take the adhesive all the way down to 0, let it sit overnight, come back day, let it thaw, and then test it. If it's still within the specifications of when it's produced, okay, that's good. But you got to do that 5 times. And if 0, damages the adhesive, then we go to 10. And if that doesn't work, then we go to 20, right? Wherever. But it depends on going through that cycle 5 times. that's when you can say it's freeze-thaw stable. If you get it freeze-thaw stable 10 degrees F and you go to 5 degrees one time, it's going to fail, right? But it can go to 10 5 times, but if it goes to 5 once, it's going to fail. Could fail, be a better way to put that. So it's not a, hey, it can do whatever you want. You've just got to find out what that temperature is. It's just not that hard to keep it in an enclosed area. Don't leave it in your van overnight. That's where we see it.
We even have crates here, right? Because it's like, all right, guys, you're there's some things that are pretty sensitive. We're going to put them in crates. We bring them in every night. We put them back on the van. When you get to the job site, you bring it in the job site. That way, nothing is going to.
That's right.
Keep
that
on
little bit's going to save you.
Freeze thaw.
Yeah, we try to make it easy. We have carts allocated to the vans, crates allocated for the items that we're worried about. So yeah,
that's right.
Try to make it easy. Now, what about
what about this comment right here? Like
about
got Sonny's number from a bathroom stall.
Is that you that's been calling me? I got you $20. Hang on.
I forgot what I was about to say.
So I think. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, we just talked to the guys too about making sure that they're checking dates, even though like we have a rotation, like when we re-up our stock and stuff like that, or project to project, we still check dates and try to rotate. Somebody had brought the dates up. I don't know if it was a phone call or what, but the importance of checking dates and shelf times or shelf life, not shelf time, shelf life.
Shelf life.
And just letting them know that it still breaks down, even though it hasn't been opened. It still breaks down and settles over time. So
separates. Yeah. So we have some products that are a year and some that are 2 years, right? We have some seam sealers that are 6 months, right? You just got to understand what you're dealing with, and the label will tell you what you need to do.
Right. I mean, I think we've all opened up a seam sealer, especially back in the day where you open up the can and it's like, you try to pour it out and it's like solid in there, and it's like, yeah, and that's
it stinks so bad.
Oh, the stinky ones, yeah.
It's just it literally is growing bugs in there. That's what it's.
I will never forget the color and the smell. Like it's like, is that mold? This bucket's brand new. It's like,
yeah, that's what I was gonna bring up, because I think it was we talked about it before, but someone was like, this adhesive says that it doesn't grow mold, but when I'm done with it, I put it away, and then I open it up and there's mold. And I think you had to explain to them why. So can you just explain to everyone what's going on?
No, that's a great question. Great question. It's when it comes to preventing mold from growing in a water-based adhesive, you can treat it for both the wet state and the dry state, right? You want to have both on there. Unfortunately, the products that kill the bugs and the bacteria are also the products that kill humans and pets, right? So if you put too much in there, you're not going to get the floor score, the CRI, or any of those green certifications that everybody and their brother want, right? So it's a balance of what you need to do. But again, the mold and bacteria growth is just like plasticizer. They're not mold proof, plasticizer proof. They're mold resistant. They're plasticizer. Once you get past that point of no return, it's going to grow. There's nothing you can do about it, right? Again, to make it mold proof, you're going to put so much of the bad stuff in there, you wouldn't want to use it.
Or just take the water out of it. Water is like
then it's reactive, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, right. Water's like one of the main catalysts for mold. So
and it was.
That's right. You got to have something. You got to have water and something to eat.
Yeah.
Talking to someone else maybe about it, but they were like, when you're done using it, what you're doing is you're picking it up from the floor and introducing that back into the bucket. So it's not just the adhesive that is molding. You're actually introducing whatever's on that floor to the bucket.
Could be. Yeah, could be.
It's a good question coming up here.
Okay, and Kevin,
Yeah,
Oh, you know
always,
it's a
dude.
good one
Always.
when Kevin's on here.
Oh, God. Thanks, Kevin.
Why are the flooring manufacturers looking for adhesive to solve dimensional stability issues instead of try to figure out why their products are not stable?
It's easy. They suck. I don't know if there's a different answer than that, but we get that all the time. And when we have this conversation, and Kevin will feel the same way, if we get a water-based adhesive that can prevent dimensional movement on vinyl products, you'll be the king. That's the golden, that's what you want. You would be the only manufacturer out there if you can do that. That's the golden ticket, is what I was trying to say. But we can't do it. Thermodynamics is real. And if there's enough of a swing of any of the temperature and the parameters or outside the parameters of what the flooring guy asked for, it doesn't matter if it's epoxy, urethane, MS, transitional pressure sensitive, PSA, it's going to move. All of those are going to move differently because of the technology they are and their shear strength. But it's just easier to try to pawn it off on the adhesive guy, and that I'm talking about most, not all manufacturers, to try to minimize that. So that's why we've seen a swing in the process of installing vinyl planks. More and more people are asking for that the wet adhesive transfer, maybe not wet set, but wet adhesive transfer.
Or semi-wet set.
Semi-wet. If you're going to do that, just use a wet set and install it like you would a wood floor, right? The whole benefit for having something transitional or something PSA is you can do the whole room and then come back in and work on top of it. Well, you can't
even
do
really do that
that
anymore.
wet.
You can't even do that anymore. So that's why the time savings right now, we're doing 3 feet by 50 foot at a time versus what
An entire room.
Yeah, well, versus what the limitations are right now, right? An entire room, you have to have a whole crew of everyone who knows what they're doing, and the timing still got to be right. But if you're only doing small runs at a time, you can still time it out and still be productive. You can have a couple people installing the last couple feet while someone else starts spreading the next run of adhesive. It's just a matter of learning the products you're working with.
But when they require that and the slab is non-absorptive, how are you going to do a wet set? How are you going to get that transfer? I mean, to me, the root of a lot of the evil we deal with is having non-permeable or non-absorbent slabs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and see, porous is not the right word, and I use it all the time, but we're trying to make a push that porous and non-porous are really aren't the same, aren't what we're looking for. It's like if you do anything with ceramic tile, it's vitreous and non-vitreous, because you're talking about properties of the product when it comes to moisture. Porous and non-porous just means it has pores or it doesn't have pores.
It doesn't.
Yeah, concrete has pores,
right?
But it could absorb or not absorb, right? Just depends on what you're doing, and it's just it's something that we want to do. And one thing I want to get in here before we wrap up is I want all of you out there, especially the technical guys there and the installers, if you think you have a moisture related failure, check the absorbency of the slab, because I have never seen a slab that has been absorptive have a moisture related failure. And if I say that, and what do you think that is? Because when that moisture comes up and gets to the back of the flooring and it condenses and it goes back to the slab, if it's absorptive, it's just going to go back in. If it's non-absorptive, it's going to sit there in that adhesive as liquid water, and it's brought up those alkali salts. So now you have water, you have elevated pH, and it's just sitting there in the adhesive. That's a recipe for disaster, right? It's going to break down.
Kevin says, unfortunately, we have to retrain an entire nation. That is a tremendous burden. And that's true, because there's too many people out there that think, we say it time and time again, I've been doing this for 20 years. This is how I'm going to keep on doing it. And that's just not the case. You can't have that mindset.
So something I heard today is, and this isn't exactly what I heard. This was like based off of memories, right? so set in holding on to our ways that we're not willing to learn the new ones. And this was off of a comment about memories. We're so set on holding on to our memories that we're not willing to make new ones, right? Not letting go. So I just kind of restructured it and talking about just learning, period, is just a fancier way of saying, I've been doing it like this for 20 years, like Daniel said. I've only been doing it for 20 years.
And it gets worse when you get older because I know more. I know more. I'm older. I'm an old man. I know more than you young whippersnappers. And I just, it's confirmation bias. If you guys know what that is, confirmation bias is when, you know the answer, that's it. Well, maybe it's not that, but everything you look at is going to support what you think it is. And you may be completely wrong, right?
Right.
So be open-minded and understand what's going on in totality. We talk about in law enforcement is the totality of the situation, right? It's not just one little part, it's the whole thing. Then you can start putting things together and you can check off, okay, so it's not this, it's not that, it could be this, and then you can make a rational decision of what you need to do to remedy it.
And I think like when we do the class down in Ohio, Sarah actually, she writes, they give us a thank you card and all this stuff every time we go down there, which is amazing. And in the last card, that's what she put in there. Is she said that she likes my open-mindedness approach to everything, because I go in there and I'm like, guys, if I'm showing you something and you know a better way to do it, let me know so I can change too.
Share it with me. That's right.
I'm not here to just try and teach. If you know a better way, I'm open to changing my ways too.
That's right. That's what the tribe does. Shares their ideas and real life situations.
Jason says an absorbative slab can reach saturation at that spot, making it non-absorbative and can cause a moisture-related problem.
True that.
Yeah, I think that's, it's a true statement, but it takes a while to get there, and that takes a real problem, real moisture problem, but absolutely true. But if you get that non-permeable, I know what I was going to say. I don't know if I can say it on the air, but when you turn it, when you've got that water sitting there with the adhesive, it just turns it into soup. And I usually say something else, but it'll break down the adhesive, because if you just put an adhesive film in the water, do what?
No, I know what that something else is. I was going to say it wrong intentionally. So
yeah, ball soup. So you take a film of adhesive and put it in just a thing of water. Most everyone's, acrylic emulsions adhesive are just going to sit there and it's not going to be affected. But you take that same one and you put it in water that has a pH of 11 or 12, a lot of them are going to break down, but that's how you know not to compound around it. The polymer has good water resistance, so that's what you want to do.
Right.
So if a manufacturer comes to me, we were talking about that before, and I want something that's really tacky on the front end and I can be able to replace my carpet tile, a year later. Okay. So you want something soft and pliable. So what we would do is we would go to a polymer manufacturer and we would ask for a soft, pliable polymer, and then we would compound around it. We wouldn't start with something that's really hard and has no tack and then try to bring it back to that. So conversely, if I wanted a wet set, I wanted something with no tack, I would start with a polymer on the other end of the spectrum. And then that way we can go around it and make it have the features and benefits that our customer needs it to be.
So Nate is saying that aggregate affects concrete more than people think. Limestone is porous, but the East Coast uses granite rock and West Coast has a lot of volcanic glass in the aggregate. So you have to, this is where knowing what's going on and why we say that installers essentially need to be scientists sometimes. So that way, when we do get thrown under the bus or they try to throw us under the bus, we have something to come back with, right? Like, I already knew this, and this is what we did to mitigate these issues.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, it's not to oversimplify it, but if you're using a product and that manufacturer says you need to do A, B, and C before you can do the floor, and you do A, B, and C, and then something still fails, and it's coming from this lab, that's not on us, right? We followed the instruction. You as an installer, we can take it back to the manufacturer and say, look, I did it. Document it. Just don't tell them you did it. Document that you did it. And it protects you from having to worry about something that happens with the slab. Because again, we're not concrete experts, but we're asked to be all the time.
Yep. And so I showed this picture to Sonny prior to us jumping on here and said that I was going to show it because these are the kind of things that, you know, we get and someone just will text a picture and say, hey, what's going on with this?
Oh, the social media is famous for that.
There's a lot right now that forum that you comment on the water bottle on the adhesive.
So,
Yeah.
you know, we'll get something like this, right? And it's like, what is going on? Why is it doing this? And you can see the adhesive coming up through the seams, and you can see it kind of doming here. And I don't know how easy it is for people to see, but and then you get
I can
pictures.
tell you 100% by looking at that picture what's going on.
It's failing.
Adhesive is coming out through the joint. That's all I know. You can't talk about anything else. I left my
Right, but
X-ray vision gone. I can't see.
and then you just have to start asking questions from there, right? Because it's like, why is it doing this? Well, it could be moisture. It could be, you know, something reacting with the plasticizers.
Wrong adhesive.
Why is the adhesive
reacting with
wet
the
after
backing.
installation? Right. I don't know how long this floor has been down, but that would certainly play a role into, you know, what I would look at next. Right.
Right. And then so the text messages I got were floors are 2-coat, moisture barriered, proper trowel with PS adhesive, clean substrate. And then I asked, was the adhesive removed? They said yes, bare smooth slab. And this is where it kind of got interesting because you say smooth slab, and before I said that, you kind of interjected and said that it's probably on a slab that is, in today's terminology, non-porous, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that would be the first thing I would check because, you know, for that piece, that plank to dome up, you know, there's some kind of reaction going on underneath there. Is it the reaction of the plasticizer and the adhesive? Is it a reaction of the adhesive not ever drying? Is it a topical cleaner? Something affected that plank because if you left it on the floor just sitting there, it wouldn't dome like that. Right. So there's where you got to just start looking and checking things off the box. Like I said earlier, you know, until you open it up, you just don't know.
Right. And this is where, you know, we had David Zach on last week and Jason is on this week, and, you know, commenting. It's when you talk to inspectors, it's like these are every scenario that they would have to go through when they're inspecting something like this. So that's where you as an installer, it'd be beneficial to take this same stuff. So that way, when you come into something like this, even if it's your own project, it's like, all right, let me start investigating. What could it be? And then you have to kind of reverse engineer.
That's right.
Best way to learn.
Yeah. Anytime you get training, like inspectors take an inspector course or even factory training like they did at Taylor last week, you're going to learn what's going to happen when you do this. And if you don't do that, what's going to happen? So it gives you an idea. Yeah, this is oversimplifying it, but it gives you an idea what can you skip on the job site sometimes and what can you never skip, right? Because there's no perfect job site. Sometimes we have to make a change and pivot while we're there. What can we pivot on and what can we not, right? That's what's really going to be important.
Yep. And I mean, it's all about
that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Said it's all about that substrate. You got to start at the base, right? Because we've been in situations where, you know, contractors are like, we spent a bunch of money to put this moisture barrier in here.
Yeah.
Why can't you just go over on top of that? And it's like, because we need something that's absorbent, right, Sonny?
Yes.
We'll change it right now. We need something absorbent.
Absorbent.
If we go over this, it's like going over glass. The adhesive will never set up.
Oh.
And it's hard for people to understand why we have to do extra stuff when they already spent all this money to try and not do extra steps.
Yeah, speaking of that, dude,
And
I
in
think
that situation, and also this picture right here, I'm going to guess that the problem can be figured out by referencing ASTM F710. There's going to be something in F710 that wasn't done. That's why they're having that issue right there.
that it has to do with well, I
Yeah.
guess you can't say, right?
If you are not a
Absorbency
member of
test.
ASTM F06, you need to do it. It's $115. It gets you all the documents you need. And you say, oh, what kind of documents? The documents you're going to be judged by if you ever have a problem on the job. How can you comply with those requirements if you don't have them, right? Some inspector's going to come in and go, look, you didn't do this, this, and this. Here's the document I'm going off of. And guess what? If you didn't do it, you're going to be responsible for that installation. It's all about limiting liability. That's what we all do in life, right? We don't want to have extra liability. If you have those ASTM standards and you can look at them and make sure that when you do your job, you're following these standards and following the manufacturer standards, you're protecting yourself.
And if you're just an installer, you don't have to have a store or sell material. If you're just an installer installing for multiple locations, it's even more important for you to protect yourself because you don't have anything to offset any of the costs that are associated with losing on a project like that, right? Like if you go install a 20,000 square foot LVT project and you do it all wrong, because the office told you that it's good to go, and you lose, man, that's your business, bro. Like
I've seen people go out of business
mitigated that,
just because of that, right? Same with moisture testing. People don't, unfortunately, people don't moisture test until they're burned, and hopefully they didn't get burned to the point where they've got to close their business.
And
it's real, folks.
I'm honest with people. Some of the projects that we get, they came back to me and they said, look, honestly, you guys weren't the lowest bid, but when you came over here and we walked the project and you're telling me about moisture testing and why we have to do this and why we have to do that, they're like, that's the kind of people that we want, right? Like we're trying to make sure that there's no issues too. And then they ended up switching to a different carpet that didn't require moisture testing. So
yeah, broadloom carpet typically doesn't. As long as you use a premium SBR adhesive, it's not going to break down from alkalinity. The moisture is going to pass through it. Same thing about before with the absorptive nature of the slab. So there's a lot to it. I mean, we're talking about limiting liability. Most, superintendents on a job site, they're going to want to minimize their liability because it's their butt on the line, right? If you show them a tangible reason of why you need to do this, here's the standard. If you don't do this, you're not going to have a warranty. Guess what? The cat's going to start listening to you, right? He doesn't want to negate his warranty for not only his company, but the building owner. So you've got to, if you show them why you're asking this and show why you need to do this, it makes things go easier. There's still some assholes who are not going to do it. I'm sorry. There's still some guys out there who are not going to do it.
Makes for a great episode.
Most of them are going to.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Is when they realize that most of the failures end up happening after they're already moved in, and then to tell the client, oh, we have to take all your stuff out and then have this shut down again after you're already moved in, it's like, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, we didn't want to pay that $15,000 6 months ago, but we'll pay $80 now to redo it.
Yeah, right. The convenience it would have been to pay an additional fee versus what we're losing and still paying the fee on top of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, you guys have probably heard me tell this story. It was at the Smithsonian Institute. They had me go up there and they're they took up carpet tile and they're putting in hardwood floors. And they'd already had, the job was like 100,000 square feet. They already had about 10,000, maybe a little less than that already installed. And I walk in there and they are spreading urethane adhesive right over the old green pressure sensitive adhesive, right over the top of it. And I stopped the job. I'm like, this has got to stop. It was our adhesive they were using, whatever. But then the superintendent came out and he's like, oh, we've done all this over here and everything's fine. He goes, I don't have the money to stop the job and do it right. I said, well, do you have the money to do it again? Because it's not a matter of if, it's when this is going to fail. And I hope the 10,000 or how much it is fine, but moving forward, we're not going to keep doing this. And so I stopped a federal union job in Washington, D.C., and I lived to get out of there. I wasn't thrown in with the fishes. But I mean, it's I get my point to that is you've got to, and to stand up, you've got to show them the documentation of why you're saying it. It's not just Sonny saying it. It's not just Daniel saying it, or say, this is the standard in the industry that we need to follow. And if we don't do it, it's on you.
Yeah. I mean, we're working on a project right now where they put fire rated plywood on something, and they're like, can we just go over this? And I'm like, no. And then they're like, they said, I asked ChatGPT, and ChatGPT said we could.
Well, I guess I'm wrong.
And I was like, listen, man, I said, the thing is that the manufacturer's documentation was kind of vague, right? It was like, you can go over it, but you also have to do these steps. And the way that I understood it and the way that they understood it, we weren't on the same page. So I was like, you know what? Let me just call them.
That's what they want. They want like this. Yeah. You can go over it. And then the next line said, if you, and they were like, you can't go over it.
If you install underlayment.
There you go, bam.
If you can go over F you. I mean, here's the other thing that I tell people that are not done enough in the world is bond test. If you have a question, something, do a bond test. Let it sit for 72 hours, come back and peel it up. If you pull it up and all the adhesive comes off the substrates on the back of the flooring, there's something wrong with your slab, right? If you pull it up, everything's, all the adhesive stays on the substrate, nothing on the back, and it wasn't a PSA, okay, there's some compatibility issues with the adhesive in the flooring. It will tell you a ton of information.
Yep, and that's what we did. So while I was on the phone with the manufacturer, I got a hold of the guys, and I'm like, just go spread some adhesive, put some pad on there, put some carpet on there, so that way we can show them that it's not going to work, just like a 6-inch by 6-inch or 1 foot by 1 foot piece, right? Yep. And by the time I called the manufacturer, sent him an email, they sent me some pictures back and was like, this stuff is already falling off.
Yeah.
Yep. There you go.
Just had to do that with the guys on that broadloom job, that pattern job we did a couple weeks ago. We had 3 different scenarios, and I had them do 3 different scenarios on bond tests, right? Like, we got to make sure that we're limited. We got to see which one's going to work, which one's not going to fail, and why are we doing this? And then they
a couple extra trips to the job site saves you about $50,000. It's worth it. That's right.
Solving problems you didn't know you have in ways you can't understand. So
Jack,
we'll do one.
Deep Thoughts by Jack Handy.
We'll do one more because we're over on time a little bit already, but I do want to do this last question. Talk about trowel notch important on absorbative and not absorbative slabs.
God, Jason is a smart guy, man. I like that guy.
He is, man. We got to get him on again.
Yeah, we do. He's all in, man. He's committed to this industry.
I like all the questions that he asks. He'll just post questions just to see what people will say. I love that.
Right. Yeah, instead of just saying what it is, he'll ask a question. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
But when we talk about trowel notches, the size is dependent on the absorptive of the substrate, right? You're going to use a lot smaller, it's non-porous than you would if it's porous. And the reason that is if you're working on top of a porous substrate and you use that smaller trowel, just go from 16th to a fine notch, whatever. If you use that fine notch on there, you're doing half of a fine notch because some of it is absorbing into the slab. So you use that larger trowel. So if some does go into the substrate, absorb into the substrate, you still have plenty on top, right? And the other thing is we're telegraphing, right? That's a whole different show in itself. That's another reason why manufacturers have gone down to that fine notch trowel for just about everything, because you're especially at a hospital, you're looking down a hallway. what's clean? Shiny's clean. So the floor's got to be shiny. And you see every trowel mark going across there. The bigger the trowel, the easier it is gonna be for them to see it. So we've all gone down to the fine notch trowel, but if you do that over something that's really absorptive, you're more than likely going to have a failure no matter what glue it is.
Been there.
Yep. And that's where primers come into play. Or on primers, if you have a dusty slab or a really absorbent slab, get a couple of pails of primer and prime it. You're going to save yourself a lot of headache.
Well, I mean, even on this same project, right after we installed the underlayment, manufacturer says, "Oh, if you're using this adhesive, prime it first." So that's what we had to do, and it's like we have to do all these extra steps. Why does it cost so much? Well,
yeah, that's it. Well, I mean, when you're troweling that glue out and you're on the ground, your trowel is going back and forth, and all of a sudden you got a bunch of shit built up on the edge of your adhesive. That's a problem. You need a primer. Pick it all up, go back and prime it. That means it's over absorptive, it's dusty, it's not going to hold the adhesive, right? The adhesive is going to coagulate on those piles of dust that are sitting on the surface. It's not going to dry and on the flooring itself or the substrate, right? So there's a reason when you pull that up and you see all that dust and making a mess, that's the reason you need to use a primer.
You mean you just don't clean the notches out every 4 feet?
Yeah, just scoop it up, throw it out, put it back in the bucket. That stuff will kill the mold.
Well, we definitely appreciate your time today, Sonny. I know just like every time we talk, I learned a little bit, and I hope the audience did too. I don't think that there's an issue with that. I mean, we dug pretty deep today, and like you said, like we can go off on tangents on all these things. Like we can do an entire episode on primer next time, and
right.
an entire episode on absorbent concrete.
Yeah.
I have an episode idea. I'll say it later. So or off air.
Do what?
I have an idea, but I have to wait. I have to save it.
So action items. Understand the flooring you're working with. I don't care if it's the same adhesive or the same flooring system you've installed for 5 years. Go back and check that data sheet. Go back and check the label. Chances are something has changed. They've changed the trowel size that they recommend, especially if it's new stuff. Take a minute and read the label and go through and write stuff. When I go to a job site and they hold up, they go, "This is my trowel. This is my resilient trowel. My wood trowel's in the back." That's not how it works. Make sure you get the right trowel. You change it at the proper times. It starts wearing down, and just follow on the pail. It's gonna minimize a lot of liability.
Absolutely, people would look at us crazy if I told them the amount of money we spent on notches.
Yeah,
that's right.
Way less money than what we would have spent on replacing and repairing or redoing.
But yep, people think that stuff, that it's same for every job that you do, and everyone's different, right? You just got to make sure you got the right stuff and do it right. Sounds simple enough.
And that's why I got to get trained, and that's why we have, we're thankful that NAFCT is a sponsor, so we appreciate you for that, and we got to get more people funneled in, get them trained, so that way we can talk about the labor shortage, because we talk about it all the time, but it's not necessarily a labor shortage. It's a qualified labor shortage. We need more qualified people out there. And that's where, the audience comes in.
The substrate class it doesn't matter if you're a salesperson, a project manager, an installer. You take that class, you're going to understand what needs to be done a lot better, right? You're not going to find yourself in a problem because we go deep into the weeds in the concrete. We go deep into weeds under wood substrates. So there's a lot of useful information in there. We had a lot of great minds put that together.
Oh yeah, 100%. I learned more about underlayment than I probably need to know.
That's right.
Thanks, Sonny. And we look forward to the next time you're on.
Yes, sir.
Thanks,
Happy
everyone.
to do it anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
Give us a like and subscribe.
Or
Go over
don't
there
like.
to NAFCT and Divergent. Give them a like and subscribe too. That way, when they got stuff going on, everyone has an update.
And if you don't like any of the episodes, make sure you share it with all your friends so that way you can ask them if they don't like it too after they listen to it.
All right, guys.